NieR Replicant version 1.224744871139 came out this year. It rode off the hype of the very successful NieR Automata a few years back, and even piggybacked off the increasingly popular MMORPG Final Fantasy XIV, with them introducing some NieR raids that would have certainly whet the appetites for those unfamiliar with the franchise. It's a typical JRPG with an open world to explore, lots of side quests to occupy your time, and even farming and fishing to grind for. It's set in a world that is slowly being overrun by shades. These are weird monsters of varying sizes and flavors, with some even inhabiting humans and infecting them with a disease called the Black Scroll. Our protagonist NieR lives with his sister Yona, and his singular purpose in life was to keep her alive because, not surprisingly, she is infected with the disease. Now, from here, I can branch off to explaining all the many unique aspects of this world, like the fact that it's set 1312 years into the future and yet seems to have regressed technologically. But honestly, if Yoko Taro, the game's director, is known for anything, it's subverting your expectations, so I find it a bit redundant to go through a thorough rundown, and it's best you experience it yourself. No. What I want to focus on in this review is the way this game manipulates your emotions. Again, if you played NieR Automata before, you will no doubt be familiar with the multiple endings and playthroughs you had to go through in order to get a more thorough appreciation of the game. That is still the same in this case, with 5 endings available to you, which is one more than the original NieR Replicant. And let me just say it now, you have to go through all of them, just like in Automata. But unlike Automata, for the first 4 playthroughs, I can't say that the journey was worth it. I think this is when it cannot be overstated that this is a remake and that NieR Automata is actually a sequel. As such, I felt that Automata addressed all the shortcomings of the original NieR Replicant. But as this isn't a reboot or a reimagining, despite the much improved graphics and fight mechanics, I have to confess that the need to repeat the storyline was draining. Yes. It's emotionally draining, it saps you of most of your tears, and look, that's a sign of a good story for sure if it can engage you on such a level. And let me just say it now, as a whole, the story will utterly devastate and yet uplift you. No, the draining I'm referring to here is more on your motivation. On top of becoming slowly numb to all the dramatic moments that you've had to repeat again and again, it just starts to get tedious when, besides a few extra cutscenes and dialogue, there's hardly anything different. I find myself skipping through the walls of text on more than one occasion. They were just inconsequential, nothing changed as far as your character or the story is concerned. Essentially, you are expected to feel the same emotions repeatedly. Until that is, you reach Ending E. On the 5th playthrough, I couldn't believe that to get to the last and actually new ending, I had to replay the game from scratch, whereas previous playthroughs only needed me to start halfway. This is the part where you once again don't have access to a mount or fast travel via ferry, and this is where you once again are back to your basic weapons and spells. Yeah, drained. And yet, as if a glitch in the fabric of the universe, somewhere the story splinters off and you're faced with the totally unexpected new gameplay. I've pondered about how to approach Ending E without any spoilers, and I apologize, but I'm gonna have to play the role of an old man and tell you a story from my youth. Quite some time ago, I went on a solo vacation to the US. It was the furthest from home I'd ever been, and if you can remember the last time you left home without your phone and feeling out of sorts all day, well, imagine facing that for many days where literally the only option I had upon reaching Atlanta Airport was to use a payphone. Yes, it was that long ago. No Google Maps, no way to hook up to Wi-Fi to quickly go to Messenger to let someone know where I was, no Uber to readily pick me up and get me to where I needed to be. Stupid now in retrospect, but I didn't even ask from the people I knew there where our hotel was going to be. I just trusted they'd pick me up at the airport. I will admit that the independence and sense of adventure I had at that time has since been hard to replicate. It was exciting, it was fun, it was memorable. But I'd also be kidding myself if I didn't feel scared. I was certainly uncomfortable, even when I was sleeping in a 5-star hotel. I still felt alone, even though I met up with friends who lived there. And as the day wore on and my holiday reached its end, This urge to go home to my comfortable bed grew stronger. Until finally I took that 16-hour flight back home. At last, I was home, back to my room where everything was familiar. It might have been a cheap single bed I slept in back then, but that sense of relief that it was finally over was undeniably powerful. So it is with finally finishing the Nier Replicant remake. The numbness I felt at having to go through the repetition, both emotionally and motivationally, became worth it. The way it tied up this very human need to get home was a release that I barely hoped anymore could be possible. It is very easy to dismiss Yoko Tara's works as overly emotional sponges meant to put you through so much until you can't take anymore. It's a common meme to expect him to hurt you at some existential level. But while that may be true in his build-up, I gotta say, he always makes it worth it in the end. You'll always feel that you're finally home when it's over, and that's what makes a great story.